AI listing tool. This is the latest buzzword right now in the reseller community or in the reselling community, depending on how you prefer, to call it. I want to call it the reseller community. And I kind of noticed that if I go onto YouTube, one thing that constantly hits me is this, the AI listing tool. People are talking about it. In the last 2 or 3 days, I've not been on YouTube, but the last time I did check, I did see some posts about the AI listing tools, and people are talking about it. People are kind of divided. Some people kind of feel like this is just somebody taking advantage of the current buzzword in town, which is AI. Using AI to build processes, to build systems that's going to help your business. And to be honest, I haven't tried any of these listing tools. And if the makers of these listing tools were to reach out to me and say, Hardwareflipper, would you like to try this listing tool and, kind of give us your feedback? Of course, I would be glad to test it out and see, but basically in my own business, I do not really need an AI listing tool to pull off the processes I already have in place. All right. See, when I did this thing a long time ago, there was no AI. Everything was pretty much done manually. And I feel like I'm still going to be much, much faster, trying to now, change my whole processes, trying to develop, to implement a new tool. But that is basically because of the kind of items I sell. If you are joining me for the first time, I sell desktop PCs, laptops, monitors on eBay. And like I said, this is a specialized niche where you do not have 1,000 different items to sell. See, I'm going to make a dedicated video of what I feel if you want to really, make progress in this business, what you might need to do. Of course, this is my own opinion. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you have to follow it. I am kind of the opinion that, look, it is much, much easier to, win in this reselling game if you focus on a certain, group of items. You see, there's this model where you constantly have to go out to source for items. So whenever you go out, you're going to get a different kind of inventory. You're going to bring them home. You want to make photographs, you repeat this echo again. You go out, you get something different. Today, you might get a pen like this. Tomorrow you get a USB SD card reader like this. You might get a phone like this. And you might get a tablet like this. I'm just going to open it so that you see what you get a tablet like this. This one has been sold. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be packing it just after this video. You see, the more diverse your inventories are, the more it kind of complicated the business is going to be if you are not careful. Complicated in this way means that you have to constantly be listing items, constantly be looking for how to photograph items. Of course, there are some categories where it's just not possible to do, the way I do it. The way I do it is this. I have just said to myself, look, I'm going to focus on a certain kind of computer, a certain kind of laptop, a certain kind of phone, a certain kind of iPad or tablet, depending on what you want to call it. I want to focus on certain kind of, monitor. And because of that, I did put in a lot of work developing a model for all the different items I sell. And what that meant was that, look, a long time ago, I had already put these items, on soft copies. I've made the photographs. I've created the description, created listing templates for this, item. Of course, when I was trying to, do this right from the get-go, it was kind of difficult. I spent a lot of months trying to, perfect this template, keep everything in a defined folder such that if I have to, launch out now and list a particular item that I have just received, it will take me less than, 40 minutes to set up a very complicated listing on eBay. I sell my products as, variations. And if you know what that means, it might be a little bit, of a hassle to set it up. Of course, it took me some time to develop, something I can pretty much call my own AI. Just using basic Excel, I was able to actually develop something that works perfectly for me. But then, if you take a look at YouTube, I kind of understand that the general, group of resellers that we have out here, they tend to sell, diverse items. There are very few people selling replenishables. When I take a look at the videos, I'm talking about those resellers that also put themselves out there on YouTube. I see people selling, diverse items. I understand that business model might be a little bit more profitable because if you are not able to get an iPad, you should be able to get maybe a shoe. And if you're not able to get a shoe, you should be able to get some few pair of jeans, This is the idea behind this, And if you have a shop where you have a lot of items, there's definitely just going to be no day where you are not going to record absolutely, no sales. There's just going to be that one person that's going to look for something in your shop and try to buy it. I understand it, but in as much as you are going to be benefiting from the fact that you are going to be making sales, there's just no day that you're going to be recording zero sales. There is also a lot of work that you also need to reckon with. And one of the work that you need to reckon with is that you might be having to list every day. You might be having to always be, you're on this hamster wheel of making photographs, trying to, list new items, trying to Google out, the product specification, the item description and other stuff. It takes a lot of time. And given that these AI listing tools are being pushed, of course, it might be something that might help your business. But before you go out there, committing yourself to any of the AI listing tools, ask yourself, what kind of items do I sell? Am I selling a category where the potential items that will make me profit are just limited? Like if you say use computers, I can tell you for free that the items on which you can really make good profit on, they are not up to 25 or 40. But if you want to be on the safe side, let's just say 50 items. I really do think that, with 50 items, you do not really need an AI listing tool to pull this up. But if you sell in the used category and you sell clothing, you sell shoes, you sell, all sorts of kitchen utensils, you all sort of, small electronic items and, stuff like that, books, you are definitely going to be in this position where an AI listing tool might just be a game changer for you. But then do not forget the fact that at the end of the day, it is just a new added expenses to your business. Don't get me wrong. I use AI in my business. I use ChatGPT on a daily basis to query prices, to query, item descriptions, to see what people are selling that item for, to see what items are trending and so on and so forth. I pretty much love the fact that AI is just becoming a handy tool that we can actually use in our business. But understand that, using AI is another cost to your business. If you are not careful, you're going to be paying for your rent, you're going to be paying for your transportation, you're going to be paying for your shipping supplies, you're going to be paying for your electricity bills, and even an AI listing tool. At the end of the day, you just keep paying. If you are not careful, once again, you might come to a situation where you pay all these expenses. At the end of the day, you have little or nothing left on your own plate. All right, I have played this game before. I have played the game of selling diverse items. At the end of the day, I saw that I was constantly having to work. There are just so many hours in a day, let's say 12 hours, if you are very, very fortunate to be able to keep 12 hours for yourself. But a lot of people out there, they will be very thankful if they can actually get 4 hours to themselves to do their business the way they want to do it. And if you are not ready to make a decision on the kind of game you want to play, do you want to be that person that will constantly sit down and just, list items without end? Or you want to have a small set of inventory that you can continue to manage and develop a very airtight connection between some suppliers so that as soon as those inventories get, bought off or exhausted, you have the capacity or the possibility to get more, in which case you don't have to be on this hamster wheel of just listing items. But if your decision is like, yes, I feel like the game of, selling different items is going to pay me on the long run, then you might want to consider an AI listing tool. And like I said, there are so many out there. Unfortunately, I'm not able to give you any recommendation right now, but hopefully any moment from now, as this area gets opened up, I will be able to finally lay my hands on one of these tools, try them out, and then have a first-hand impression of what these tools really is. But then I want to also say a very big thank you, because I'm aware that some resellers in this space, they are actually working very hard to ensure that they develop tools that's going to help us as resellers. Of course, we have a business where we are just kind of, trying different stuff, trying to see what works, what doesn't. But for somebody to come out there and say, look, I'm going to be able to give 10 years of my life, researching a tool, building a tool, and making it possible that resellers will be able to benefit from it when the tool is done, that is commendable. For those that have already built theirs, having taken time off to go through the crucibles, the trenches of building a tool like this, guys, you might look at it on the surface level, it looks very easy. When the tool gets delivered to you, when you try to use it, everything seems to be on autopilot. But do not get it wrong for 1 second. It takes a lot of hard work behind the scene. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of sacrifice to actually pull this off, all right? And people have said, we are going to do this. I am going to do this. There is a reseller here, working very hard and even trying to show you guys, carry us along on how he intends to build a powerful AI listing tool that will change the game for us resellers. The littlest thing we can actually do is to make sure we support people like these, people that have said, I am committed to developing something for us resellers. We can actually be kind enough, even if we cannot, support our money. The kind comments that we can leave on this kind of, channels goes a long way to helping, the builders, motivation, because sometimes a little kind word that you give out to somebody out there might just be a game changer. A few days ago, somebody reached out to me, wrote one of my, videos commending me for the hard work I am putting into this channel, trying to show you guys what it actually looks like, flipping PCs for profit or flipping hardwares like, this kind of iPad here, phones, monitors for profit. He reached out to me and said, look, I see that you are putting a lot of work in this thing. Keep going. The sky is just the limit. Simple word. Of course, I reached back and said, thank you so much for this kind word. Things like that goes a long way to helping whoever is committing to this process. If you've ever built a tool before, you can pretty much tell that this is a very, difficult task. Even if AI has made things very, very simple, it doesn't mean that you're just going to now relax and just move 2 or 3 buttons and everything is just going to, work. You still have to spend a lot of time making sure that everything works. You still have to do a lot of tests. You still have to do a lot of queries, making sure that when the tool is finally deployed, it's going to work seamlessly. So just a little kind word might go a long way to helping some of the developers. But then you have to actually take a look at your business model, see if, an AI listing tool actually comes into question. And if it doesn't come into question, develop a system that will make it possible for you, to list your items. Gone are the days where we used to think that you have to list 300 items to be able to make a sale. You see, the current situation of eBay right now have pretty much proven that that is not the case. In the last few days, I have sold a lot of items with the very little, listings that I have on my eBay shop. But what am I focusing on? I am focusing on the items that have proven to sell on the platform. Of course, if you have 20 different type of computers, I'm going to tell you for free that the ones that tend to sell will not just be more than 3 or 4. And if you can actually focus on those ones, it's going to be a game changer for you. It's much better than, trying to list 50 different items. At the end of the day, only 2 or 3 tends to sell. But before you go to the comment section to try to bombard me, I understand what you are thinking right now. How do we get those items? Once again, that is where the work is. It's going to take you a long time to build these relationships. And sometimes it's just going to come by you just simply deploying, the try and error method. You keep trying things, keep reaching out to people, keep getting no's, be okay with getting no for an answer. And ultimately, there's going to come that day where you're going to get a yes. And that singular yes might pretty much change the game for you. Guys, if you are not subscribed at this point, please, I want to encourage you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click on the like button until I see you again in the next one. Peace.